This is the story of one of Hollywood's biggest box office stars of the late 1990s and early 2000s. A man who earned over $30 million across a single film franchise, appeared in movies that collectively pulled in more than $1 billion at the global box office, and then largely vanished from cinema screens for the better part of 2 decades. His name is Brendan Fraser, and for a very long time, most people had absolutely no idea why he left. The real answer had already spent over a decade buried by the time audiences started asking questions, buried in a private incident at a hotel luncheon, buried in the silence of an institution that chose to protect its own, and buried under years of physical injury, personal loss, and financial collapse that piled up while he stayed out of the public eye. What we are going to cover today is the full arc of that story, from his early breakthrough roles and the peak of his career as one of Hollywood's most bankable leading men, through the moment that changed everything, through 15 years of silence, and finally to one of the most emotional comebacks in Academy Award history. The Rise. Born on December 3, 1968, in Indianapolis, Indiana, Brendan James Fraser grew up as the youngest son of a Canadian Foreign Service officer, which kept the family in near-constant motion through California, Seattle, Ottawa, Detroit, the Netherlands, and Switzerland before Fraser settled long enough to attend Upper Canada College in Toronto, graduating in 1987, and then Cornish College of the Arts in Seattle, where he earned his degree in 1990, carrying dual American and Canadian citizenship into an acting career that would eventually put him on screens worldwide. 1992 introduced him to audiences through 2 films that could not have been more different. School Ties was a dramatic film, and running alongside it came Encino Man, a broad comedy about a frozen caveman thawed into modern California that turned into a surprise hit, grossing over $40 million on a $7 million budget and earning Fraser a breakthrough award from Chicago film critics. What came next picked up speed fast. George of the Jungle arrived in 1997 and pulled in over $174 million worldwide, running almost entirely on Fraser's physical comedy and considerable screen presence. And the following year, Gods and Monsters put an end to any remaining questions about whether he could handle serious dramatic material. Playing a quiet caretaker opposite Sir Ian McKellen's portrayal of aging director James Whale, Fraser turned in a performance that earned the film a 96% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and that demonstrated the comedy and the stunt work were the smallest part of what he could do. 1999 brought The Mummy, a crowd-pleasing adventure that grossed over $417 million worldwide, marked the biggest non-holiday May opening of its time, and paid Fraser $4 million, launching what would become Hollywood's most profitable adventure franchise of that era. The Mummy Returns followed in 2001 and pushed the worldwide gross past $435 million, and his per-film earnings jumped to $12.5 million. By the time The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor reached theaters in 2008, that number had climbed to $14 million per film, and across all 3 entries, Fraser collected more than $30 million in total trilogy earnings. That figure is the one in this video's title, not a single payday, but the accumulated sum of a franchise that generated over $1 billion at box offices around the world. Between those franchise entries, Fraser kept working steadily, appearing in Blast from the Past, The Quiet American, and Looney Tunes, Back in Action, while Bedazzled alone paid him $10 million. Then in 2004 came Crash, the ensemble drama that took the Academy Award for Best Picture at the 78th Oscars and collected the Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by a Cast, with Fraser among the cast members who shared that honor. By any reasonable measure, he had spent more than a decade as one of Hollywood's most bankable leading men, and there was no visible reason for any of that to stop. Then came 2003, and something happened that Fraser would not discuss publicly for 15 years. The incident. The summer of 2003 brought Fraser to a Hollywood Foreign Press Association luncheon at the Beverly Hills Hotel, where he appeared in a professional capacity to present a check on behalf of the group's charitable contribution to Film Aid International. The HFPA at that time ranked among the most powerful organizations in the entertainment industry. With fewer than 90 international journalists controlling access to Golden Globe nominations that could shape an entire awards campaign and determine whether studios kept investing in a particular actor for years. Philip Burke carried the title of 8-term HFPA president, a South African-born journalist with over 4 decades of membership who held the kind of institutional authority that few people in his position needed to announce out loud. At that luncheon, as Burke reached out to greet Fraser in a crowded room, what happened next, Fraser would carry without saying a word about it publicly for 15 years. His account, delivered to GQ in 2018, left nothing to interpretation. His left hand reaches around, grabs my arse cheek, and one of his fingers touches me in the taint, and he starts moving it around. The immediate reaction Fraser described was visceral and specific. I felt ill. I felt like a little kid. I felt like there was a ball in my throat. I thought I was going to cry. He removed Burke's hand, walked out of the event, and went straight home to tell his wife. What gives Fraser's account particular force is that Burke himself put a version of the encounter in writing years later. In his 2014 memoir, With Signs and Wonders, My Journey, From Darkest Africa to the Bright Lights of Hollywood, Burke described pinching Fraser's backside at a social event and recorded Fraser's reaction. The physical contact was not disputed in the memoir. Burke did send an apology letter at the time, and his own characterization of that apology sounded like this: "If I've done anything that upset Mr. Fraser, it was not intended, and I apologize." And here's the thing that makes this even harder to dismiss. Journalist Sharon Waxman had already reported the incident for the New York Times around 2003 or 2004 after Fraser's publicist sent a legal threat letter and Burke produced that apology. That story had been documented and published years before Fraser ever addressed it himself, and then the conversation closed. Burke faced no formal review and no institutional consequence, and the whole thing went quiet for another 14 years. The Wall of Silence. What followed the incident was a quiet that Fraser later described as impossible to ignore. Invitations back to Golden Globes events stopped coming, and when Fraser eventually put words to what he believed had happened to his career, he framed it this way: "I don't know if this curried disfavor with the group, but the silence was deafening." Whether that quiet amounted to a coordinated industry blacklist is something Fraser himself never asserted as proven fact. He raised it as a question rather than a finding. But the internal damage he described carried considerably more certainty. "It made me feel reclusive. It made me retreat." Roles, in his own words, withered on the vine. And the mechanism he believed was running underneath all of it went like this: there's a system in place that's unwritten. If you abide by it, you will be rewarded. The HFPA offered no public statement and took no action for 15 years. Burke's 2014 memoir, which put the physical contact into print, triggered a 6-month leave of absence from the organization, but nothing in that leave connected to the Fraser allegation, and he remained a fully credentialed member throughout. None of that changed while Fraser's career quietly contracted and while the forces that would dismantle the rest of his life were already building. The unraveling. Fraser has never claimed that Philip Burke alone destroyed what he had built, and framing it that way would miss the fuller picture. What Fraser has described instead is a cluster of devastating events that arrived within roughly the same window and wore him down over the better part of a decade, and the physical damage alone would have derailed many careers. The Mummy films demanded heavy stunt work, and Fraser performed most of it himself. By the third entry, filmed in China, he described his own condition this way: "I was put together with tape and ice." The cumulative damage required nearly 7 years of surgical repairs, a laminectomy that had to be repeated a year later when it failed to hold, a partial knee replacement, additional back surgery to address compressed spinal pads, and finally, surgery on his vocal cords. 6 procedures total, each with its own recovery period, each one pulling him further from consistent work. The personal collapse ran alongside all of it. Fraser had married actress Afton Smith on September 27, 1998, and they had 3 sons together before separating in December 2007, with the divorce finalized in 2009. Court-ordered payments came to $50,000 per month in alimony, carrying a 10-year term or until Smith remarried, plus $25,000 per month in child support. Added together, that obligation totaled $900,000 per year. By 2011, Fraser was petitioning for a reduction, arguing he could no longer carry the financial weight, and the legal fight dragged into 2013 when he filed again citing insufficient acting income. Smith countered with an accusation that he had concealed roughly $9 million in film contracts, including those for Extraordinary Measures and Furry Vengeance. The court rejected both arguments in 2014, leaving the payments in place and declining to find fraud on either side. Then, in 2016, his mother Carol died. Fraser had spoken warmly and publicly about her throughout his career, and in the days following her death, he appeared in a television interview, looking hollowed out in a way that viewers noticed immediately. That clip spread across the internet under the caption "Sad Brendan Fraser," turned into a meme and circulated widely among people who had no idea what they were actually seeing. Furry Vengeance had been panned in 2010. Extraordinary Measures required a notable pay cut and a Broadway production called Enclosed after just 1 week due to poor reviews. The career that had moved over $1 billion through box offices worldwide had, by the middle of the decade, almost entirely stopped. Breaking the silence. The New York Times published its investigation into Harvey Weinstein in October 2017, reported by journalists Jodi Kantor and Megan Toohey, and within days the phrase "Me Too," first put into use by activist Tarana Burke back in 2006, spread across social media in a way that shifted the entire conversation about sexual misconduct in Hollywood. That shift created the climate in which Brendan Fraser finally picked up the phone. GQ staff writer Zach Barron had already finished a profile of Fraser when that call came in, a few days before publication deadline, out of nowhere. Fraser told Barron what had happened at the Beverly Hills Hotel in the summer of 2003, what Burke had done, and how long he had been carrying it. Barron added the account to the piece, and on February 22, 2018, the article went live online under the title "Whatever Happened to Brendan Fraser?", running in the March 2018 print issue. The response came quickly and at scale. 1.1 million unique views arrived in a single day, and GQ later reported that no article in the magazine's history had ever driven that much traffic in 24 hours. Public reaction ran towards sympathy and recognition in roughly equal measure, with commentators pointing out that Fraser had lived through what scores of women in his profession had experienced, and that his account as a male survivor fit exactly the pattern of institutional power the #MeToo movement had been tracing for months. None of this was a career strategy on Fraser's part, and he had not planned for any of it to land the way it did. It was a reckoning that had taken 15 years to arrive. The reckoning. The HFPA's initial public response described the organization as standing firmly against sexual harassment, and characterized Fraser's account as information it had been previously unaware of, with an investigation announced. An independent investigator commissioned by the HFPA interviewed Fraser in April 2018, ran the review, and by June of that year, the organization presented a proposed joint statement it wanted Fraser to sign. That statement concluded that Burke had inappropriately touched Fraser, and then characterized the act as having been intended to be taken as a joke and not as a sexual advance. Fraser declined to put his name to it. His answer to that framing was direct and left nothing unclear. "I don't get the joke. I'm the only one who would know where my body was touched." The HFPA withheld the full investigation report from Fraser, citing witness confidentiality and offering only a summary in its place, and Burke received no formal disciplinary action. His public response to GQ dismissed Fraser's account as a total fabrication, and to CNN, he characterized the entire allegation as a desperate attempt by Fraser to resuscitate his career. And that is where the institutional process ended, with a finding that something improper had occurred, a characterization that called it a joke, and a former HFPA president who walked away from all of it with his membership fully intact. The long road back. Coming forward publicly in 2018 did not restore anything overnight. The physical damage accumulated across nearly 7 years of surgeries, the financial strain of court-ordered payments that totaled $900,000 per year, and the grief of his mother's death did not lift because his story finally had an audience, and the industry moved according to its own timeline, regardless of what Fraser had been through. What changed things was a decision by director Darren Aronofsky. Aronofsky had spent over a decade trying to bring The Whale to the screen, a film adapted by Samuel D. Hunter from his 2012 stage play about a reclusive English teacher living with severe obesity who attempts to reconnect with his estranged daughter. Aronofsky came to Fraser after watching his work in a trailer for the 2006 film Journey to the End of the Night, and casting Fraser was not a commercial calculation, but a creative one. Principal photography ran from March 8th to April 7th, 2021 in Newburgh, New York, with the film shot in Academy ratio, the tight, near-square frame that kept the camera close to its subject throughout. The entire production budget came to $3 million. To inhabit the role, Fraser wore prosthetics weighing up to 300 pounds, which required approximately 4 hours of application each day, and he consulted with the Obesity Action Coalition throughout the shoot. The Whale premiered at the 79th Venice International Film Festival on September 4th, 2022, and when the film ended, the audience stood for 6 minutes. At the London Film Festival on October 11th, the ovation ran 5 minutes, and critical reception of Fraser's performance was extensive and largely without reservation, even as the film's portrayal of obesity drew debate from other corners. On its $3 million budget, the film went on to gross over $57 million worldwide. Award season arrived and confirmed what Venice and London had already suggested. On February 26, 2023, Fraser collected the Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by a male actor in a leading role, and in his speech, he reached back to the SAG card he had received when he first entered the industry in 1991. It made me feel like I belonged. Then, on March 12, 2023, at the 95th Academy Awards at the Dolby Theatre in Hollywood, Brendan Fraser won the Academy Award for Best Actor, becoming the first Canadian to take that category in the history of the Oscars. His speech opened with, "So this is what the multiverse looks like," thanked Aronofsky for throwing me a creative lifeline and hauling me aboard the good ship The Whale, and closed with this: "I started in this business 30 years ago, and they didn't come easily to me, but there was a facility that I didn't appreciate at the time, until it stopped." The institution falls. While Fraser spent 2022 and early 2023 rebuilding his career, the HFPA was coming apart at the seams. A February 2021 expose in the Los Angeles Times laid out serious ethical and financial failures at the organization, and one detail in particular drew immediate attention. Among the HFPA's roughly 87 voting members, not a single one was black. NBC called publicly for major reforms, and pressure on the organization intensified steadily across the year. April 2021 brought Burke's expulsion from the HFPA, though the reason had nothing to do with Brendan Fraser. He was removed after sending fellow members an article from a conservative website characterizing Black Lives Matter as a racist hate movement and attacking one of its co-founders. NBC and Dick Clark Productions both demanded his expulsion. The board voted to comply, and the organization that had characterized what Burke did to Fraser as a joke and had declined to sanction him for what its own investigation found to be an inappropriate touching, removed him instead over an email. By July 2022, the HFPA's membership had voted to restructure, and on June 12, 2023, Dick Clark Productions and Eldridge Industries formally acquired the Golden Globe's assets and intellectual property. The Hollywood Foreign Press Association was dissolved. Burke, an 8-term president with over 4 decades of membership, ended up without a seat in an organization that no longer existed. Fraser did not fade from Hollywood because his choices failed him or because his time passed. He retreated because a man with real institutional authority assaulted him at an industry event, and the institution that Mann helped run found what happened to be an inappropriate touching, called it a joke, and closed the file. Fraser then carried that outcome in silence for 15 years while his body required 6 surgeries to keep functioning, while his marriage dissolved into $900,000 a year in court-ordered payments, while his mother died, and while the career that had generated over $1 billion at the global box office ground to a stop. The $30 million in this title represents what the Mummy trilogy alone paid him, the top of a run that had every reason to continue. The word blacklisted belongs to Fraser himself, and he put it forward as a question rather than a verdict, because the HFPA's 15 years of silence never gave him the kind of answer that would allow him to state it as fact. What the comeback actually represents reaches beyond a fine performance in a small film with a $3 million budget. Surviving without being believed, without institutional protection, and without any formal acknowledgement that something of real value was taken from you, and still finding your way back to the work, that is what the return of Brendan Fraser stands for. On March 12, 2023, he accepted the Academy Award for Best Actor and told the audience that 30 years into this career, things had not come easily. But there had been a real facility, a genuine gift that he had not appreciated at the time. He had not appreciated it, he said, until it stopped. And then, eventually, it came back. Subscribe! Hollywood's biggest disasters always had a story nobody told.